Hey, somebody needs to clear the dog-eared pages. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to the Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today and with every show we do is to play the part of a best friend or coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to the greatest mentors the world has to offer today. This week, the Professional Noticer is sponsored by Books for Veterans. The Veterans Administration in Washington, D.C. has asked for 10,000 Andy Andrews books. I'm personally donating as many as I can, but to reach 10,000, I need your help. What we're able to do to make that easier for you is for every $10 donation you make, a hardback book will be sent to the Veterans Administration for veterans, their families, and for employees of the VA. That $10 will cover the cost of the book, the shipping, and the handling. So whether you can make this a personal gift or a corporate donation, just go to andyandrews.com/veterans. This can be added to a website purchase or done as an individual entry. And thanks very much for your support. Observations and answers, that's what we do here on the Professional Noticer. And today we have a treat because we have so many observations and answers for you today. We're going to overwhelm you. We have the life skills coaches on today all at once, and these are the guys and one lady who is taking some of my books and putting them in a slightly different arena and teaching from them. And this is something, it's been suggested before and we've kind of pecked at it before, but not until Jamie Futrell. Jamie is one of the life skills coaches, and Jamie and I were in Kentucky last year where Jamie lives. Jamie's the general manager of 12 or 13 or 150 radio stations. I can't remember. And Jamie really kind of pressed me on this and said, hey, people want this, and this is something that you need to do. And I was like, oh, I just have my time. He said, it's not going to take your time. It's just going to take your blessings. And I always felt like, if I can't lead it, but I have been involved in putting this together, and here's what's happening. We've got some books that are the books that people through the years have come up to me and said something about, and they've been life-changing books. And so I went to some of my closest friends, and I said, do you have time to do an 8-week course? Would you have time to like take this book and get 12 or 20 people online with you at one time, a small group, and one night a week or one afternoon a week or one morning a week, whatever you decide, to dig into this book? And what is your favorite book? And so I asked this, and this is what we have come out with, and we're actually we're launching it. And we're launching it right now. This is you are being launched upon. The course is $129, and it includes a study guide specific to the session. Each session is an 8-week course, and each of these coaches are people who have been in my life for quite a while, and I've asked these people what their favorite book of mine was, and only Dan and Kevin Perkins had a long time trying to figure it out. So I don't really have a favorite, and I didn't think they meant that in a positive way. So I think they meant that in it like none of them are up to par. But as we go through and talk to these folks, I really would like to get some insight on what happened to them when they were. Yeah, you know me. I don't really take credit for writing these books, I feel like they were kind of passed through me. The words passed through me, and I sometimes I go back and I read them and I go, I don't remember writing that. But we're going to talk about some of what they will be pointing the discussions toward, and we finally settled on these people. Dan Stone will be teaching The Traveler's Gift. Kevin Perkins, The Noticer. Chris Comer will be doing The Noticer Returns. Tammy Nance will be doing The Little Things. Kevin Williams is tackling The Heart Mender. And Jamie Futrell is doing The 7 Decisions. And so I want to get started on this. And if it's okay, I'm going to start with Kevin Williams. You know, the Heart Mender is a book that's very close to me. And I think that it's my favorite of what I've done, but it's one of the least selling books. It's now when people get it, they seem to.
You see that title right there? Can you see that?
What? Oh yeah,
Island of Saints is what that says.
That's right.
That was the original copy that I had and the original title, right?
That was the original. That was back when it didn't sell the first time. and then they changed the name and it didn't sell a second time. But I think that the timing is now, Kevin. I think that connecting you with this book is going to give this book new life. It's funny that everybody who reads this book, it becomes their favorite book that I've written.
Totally my favorite. And I got to tell you this too. I read this book on a family vacation. We were actually in Destin, Florida. And so the setting for the book is in the Gulf. So it was particularly poignant to me as I'm looking out at this beautiful water in this Gulf and the story that's unfolding in the pages of this, not only historically and as only Andy can write with these, you know, turning these great phrases and everything. But it was particularly inspiring to me just because I was in that setting. Now, you said this was the book you never intended to write.
Right.
Why was that? How did you were distracted in some way?
I was on to something else, and this stuff started showing up out of the ground. And so, I wrote that as I lived it, and so it's an odd book. It's a book written different than any of the others that I've written. And let me ask you this, Kev. What about this book got you interested in doing this book? And if you had known what I was going to ask you, would you have said this book? Because I asked, which is your favorite?
Oh yeah,
at first. So.
Yeah, I just still said it. I'm not the kind of person who gravitates necessarily toward a novel. I'm a reference guy. I'm always wanting to learn something. Not that interested in weeding through a bunch of words to learn something. I want you to give it to me straight, and I want to know what I know. This was a book that I read because I wanted to relax and chill out in the work of a good friend and see what he's writing. I didn't know it was a book he didn't intend to write. I didn't even know what that meant at the time. I just knew it was his latest book. He wrote this book, Andy wrote this book on the way to writing 2 other books because of what was happening. And I don't want to give away this beautiful story. If you've not read The Heart Mender, I want you to read it with me through these 8 weeks, and they'll give you the dates and everything. But I'm not going to spoil this story for you. As to what drew me to it, there's a writing style in there that just keeps me going from page to page. Here again, not a novel guy. So if you're like me and you're saying, oh man, I don't want to do a book. Well, I'm kind of that guy. And so it just kept me moving forward through the thing because there's a lot of history in it. It's set around the 40s, and it keeps going back from present day to a storyline that's going on back there. Takes place in the Gulf, and Andy is basing this on a real occurrence that happened where he found a little treasure as it were. And there were some old photos of people he didn't know and a photo of someone that we all would know. And how does that all tie together? And why is that important to me today in 2022? Now, I'll tell you what it did for me. I'm doing a lot of talking here.
No, that's good. That's good. I appreciate it.
Well, Andy weaves these concepts and character principles and all that stuff into his writing. We all know that. And we all feel like we're going to learn something there. And we all have. This one slapped me in the head because there's everything from war to passion to a love story to historical significance. Everything is in this. I still don't know where the Hungry Mullet Cafe is, but I'm going to find it. And as I moved forward, the concept that emerged in this changed me in a very specific way at that point in my life. Now, I'm going to go into detail about this as we go through this book in 8 weeks, okay? And we'll all probably have stories around this. If you've read The Heart Mender, I'd love for you to join me in this too, and we'll explore it a little bit deeper. But if you've never read it, gosh, this is going to be the greatest time for this. This is a concept that will move you forward in your life. It will free you, and it will challenge you to be more and to look for more in life because you're unfettered in this way. So that's what drew me to the book, and that's what empowered me to do this class.
You know, if you aren't familiar with Kevin, which you should be, you put Kevin Williams in your YouTube search engine and look at some of his guitar playing. And this is one seriously funny person. And Kevin is one of the wittiest people that I know. And Kevin, is there going to be any guitar playing, any kind of that on your in your class?
Gosh, Andy, I don't know. I'm never far from a guitar, you know. Well, when you get this class, you're going to get me, and I'm a little bit warped. And my friends say, we love you because you're strange. And so, you're going to get a little taste of that. But we're going to explore it together. Chances are you're strange too. And so we're just going to fit right alongside each other. I'm looking down the list of coaches here. I don't see a sane one in the bunch. So that's what you're going to get. And I love that you started this, Andy. I think no matter what book you choose, honestly, I would love for you to go through Heart Mender with me and we'll talk. But no matter what book you choose, you won't go wrong in this situation. I love that you've hand selected this wonderful panel because they each bring something incredible to the table. So honored to be alongside you.
You guys are the ones I wanted first. And so, all the pricing, the dates and all will be on the show notes, but you'll get a study guide when you join. And if you want to purchase a book for the course, I'll sign it, of course. And you can get 25% off and we'll ship it to you free. And so, but all the details will be on the show notes. Thank you, Kevin. Sticking with the theme, let's clean the Kevins off our slate here and go Kevin Perkins, the old man, my best friend since high school. Old man, how are you doing?
We all good, bud. How you doing?
All right. Well, I am thrilled that you are tackling the noticer, and because you were around during that time. I mean,
Absolutely.
should we tell people this? Your parents were among the parents that, I mean, you disobeyed your parents to be around me. Right?
You didn't allude to what was going on specifically, but when you come to visit and you mention to me, boy, it's nice to use a large bar of soap. I go, something's up. He's not using the typical house size.
Right.
Soap, right?
But when I left school, I always tell people I left because when you quit college, you sign stuff and you tell people, and I didn't do that. I just left. And when I left, there were parents who said who steered their kids away from me because they said I was a bad influence, and I was going to ruin my life. And when I did, and when I was under the pier, Kevin was still coming down some weekends and would take me in his dad's boat, and we'd catch fish, and he would allow me to sell them, and so I during that time I had a thought that if I get through this, I'm never ever gonna have Kevin Perkins pick up a check in a restaurant the rest of my life, and I think I've done pretty good on that. But Kev,
Okay.
how have you? Tell me about your connection with the noticer. When I wrote this book, I think I was so I guess incapacitated about my abilities as a writer. I kind of just nudged it toward you. And so, what did you see in this book that would make you today say that's your favorite that I've done?
Well, it was interesting because first of all, a lot of the names in the book, I know these people, and it was it was it became really personal. Your writing style, for one, has always been very conversational, and it was natural for me to consume the book. But cross section of people that had different challenges going on in their life, you primarily, we get to watch the maturation of your relationship with Jones from being mad, bitter, and kind of standoffish from Jones to searching him out, and him being vital for your well-being. And so we get to watch that throughout the course of the book through other people's lives. And so it's very, very cool to me. And I enjoyed, seeing the different challenges being overcome by just a slight change in perspective.
Well, I'm thrilled that you've agreed to be a part of this. And so what can people expect if they choose this and go on this journey with you, this 8-week journey with you, Kev?
Well, we're going to start from the ground up. We're going to start from the inception of your relationship with Jones. And of course, as we progressed through several other books, we see how that's grown and grown. But
I can't help but think that this is going to be a unique experience for the reader and for the person who is in this group, because you actually were there when this was happening.
and we're going to enjoy combing through it together and looking, and I just, every time I go through it, it's like I'm prospecting, and all of a sudden another gold nugget appears that
Wow.
previously in my life I might not have uncovered that or even seen it. But as we progress and grow and mature in our lives, and as we read the book, you're just going to be shocked at, wow, that's strange, that just happened to me last week, or I met somebody that was just that way, and what can I do to help guide somebody else to not necessarily enlightenment, but perspective, having them look at something they've looked at for years and years and years, and all of a sudden they're looking at it with different eyes. It's
Yeah.
just, it's very cool. And so that's what we're going to do. The most important thing is we're going to develop a relationship inside of our group. And after the 8 weeks is over, we're going to be friends. That's just the nature of it. And they're going to know us, our relationship together, because, I can't help but talk about some things that we've done together.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
anyway,
you and I
I'll try not to get
basically,
off in the weeds.
you and I have spent 40 years growing up together, and I'm at this point halfway there. It's been a long climb to the middle for me.
I
But
understand.
I really appreciate you doing this, Kev. I think this is going to be so much fun for people. And
I think it's going to be as much of a blessing for me as it is for the people that will be with me during this ride. So
awesome.
Well,
thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, buddy.
You're very welcome.
Tammy Nance. Tammy, Tammy, wasn't the first time that we met when you interviewed me for something?
Well, we met at a Women of Faith conference when you were speaking.
That was you? That was you on the fourth row?
That was me. You were yelling. Yeah. No, that's when we met. I stood in line and got a book autographed, and that was the first time we ever met. I think, had corresponded previously to that because I had reached out to SB about doing an interview, and then
because you had a podcast at that time. You and a friend had a podcast, and I remember getting off that podcast, and we do this to this day. I go back and I report to SB, what stack to put this podcast in. Did I have a great time? Would I do this again in a heartbeat? Was this a struggle, right? And I went to SB and I said, that Tammy one was incredible. She was incredible. She asked questions that I had not been asked before. And so let's just kind of keep up with her and whatever. And so that's been, 12, 14 years ago.
that was a long time ago. Yeah.
And so we have been friends ever since. Your husband, John, has just retired from the FBI. So people, you better watch out. And so Tammy, how did you come to choose The Little Things? How did that become your book?
Well, when this book came out, my daughter and I had just had an experience on the beach, weirdly, where we were doing what you do at the beach, just laying out. And we had just gotten out there, sat down, set our stuff up, and looked around, and everybody within our vision, within our sight, was looking at the water through their phone. And we looked at each other and we were just stunned. It was in Hawaii, and it was on a very busy beach there in Waikiki, and we were there for my husband's work, thank God. And so
because they charge by grain of sand there.
Yeah. And so we couldn't believe what we were seeing. And it wasn't long after that, we had a conversation that day about how, my goodness, we need to just put the phone down and pay attention to everything around us. And it wasn't long after that your book came out. And I remember seeing it and just, grabbing it and really resonating with everything in it. But that was why it stood out to me initially, because I had just had that experience.
Wow. This whole thing, I tried to, I tried to get into the mode before I would ask each one of you if you wanted to be a part of this. I tried to get in the mode of what would it be like to talk to this person every week for 8 weeks? Because, there's some people we love, but we can't talk to them that much. And so I was thinking, what would this be like? And Tammy, it has become, she literally has become a buddy to all the people that are on our staff, on our team here, and she is the director of communications. She is taking that part of my business and organizing and herding and doing great work with it. And when I was thinking about you, Tammy, I was thinking, this will be fun. This will be sheer pleasure for everybody, because you are just you're like my sister or something.
Oh.
So,
well, thank you.
What do you think people are gonna gravitate toward when you get rolling? What are you looking toward targeting?
Well, I think what I most want out of this is something that we've all been desperate for since COVID started, and that's just connection with somebody who in a way that, understands what we're going through. And all of us have little things. I have that little filter on my computer that blurred that out, but sorry, all of us are going through little things in our life that a lot of times I'm going through it right now. We're going through a move, and I'm so overwhelmed with that I can't focus on all the little things in my life that need focus. And I think that's the biggest thing. We all need to learn. One of the most powerful chapters for me in this book was the one on a little thing like taking offense. And we live in a world where so many people choose their feelings they choose to act based on their feelings. And so that chapter had a huge impact on me. It's hard not to just fly off the handle about everything, but we can choose how we act in any given moment. And so really just for anybody who wants to come alongside me and learn how to focus on the little things in life, because that's what really the big picture is all about. And so
I think this is going to be fun being in your group. I think this is going to be fun because, that thing about taking offense, you guys are going to be able to dig into, and all you coaches will have a private Facebook group where you can meet during the week with your teams, with the groups. And so when people join, they will be able to get on that Facebook group and talk to you and talk to them and talk to each other. And the thing about the little things that lends itself to something like this is there are little interesting archaeological digs going on. Try to take that a little deeper. Try to take it onto the bottom of the pool, because just that taking offense, my exploration of that led me to believe that you have a will that is stronger than your feelings. You have a will that is stronger than your emotions, that you really can choose how to act despite how you feel. And I think that's such an important thing in raising kids. It's such an important thing in leading a company. And so I'm glad you're doing this one, Tammy.
Well, it's an honor to do it.
Chris Comer.
Hello, Andy.
Are you in Arkansas today?
I am in Arkansas today. Yes, sir.
Buddy, we actually met online, didn't we? I mean, we met in another course. We met when we were learning something else. And Chris and his wife Erin have become favorites of mine. And Chris was, man, he was Dudley Do-Right to the rescue when Hurricane Sally hit down here. I mean, the next day, Chris shows up in this monster pickup truck with generators and gasoline, and we're like, oh my gosh! And people are still talking about Chris. I mean, you're a big guy, but it's like I saw the lady that you provided a generator for and helped her with her house. She said, how's Big Chris? And I said, I hadn't heard anybody call him Big Chris. But, you're kind of big, imposing guy. But really just kind of a teddy bear.
Very much.
Chris, how did you choose the notice of returns? I had been missing Kevin. Kevin and I missed each other. And so I was thinking that Kevin would probably take the noticer. And so I was thinking, should I even talk to anybody before I get, Kevin, before Kevin's committed to that? And I was really amazed when I asked you what your favorite was, and you said the noticer returns. And so how did that impact you?
The book just came into my life, and I'll say that I read the Noticer and the Noticer Returns back to back. And the Noticer is a fine book. I mean, there's so much. You're so vulnerable in that book, and so much about your own life is in that book that I love that.
But they should join your class. But they should join your class, right?
Oh yeah. But the notice of returns just takes us so much deeper into so many things in life that people struggle with between marriage and finances and relationships and business. And I mean, there's just, and every time I read it, I'm like Kevin Perkins. Every time I read that book, I find more nuggets of wisdom in there.
Wow. You know, I remember when I wrote that book, I wrote into the story how hard a time I was having writing it.
Writing the book.
You know, I thought, oh my gosh, this is killing me. And so I'm just gonna, I can't think of what else to write. And so I'm going to write that I can't write. But I remember going deep and really headed deep for the bottom of the pool. It was like a current was against me because I had thought about what are 3 things that are giving people fits today. You know, I always pray, you know, God, give me wisdom. Help me understand things you want your people to understand. That if they did understand, they would live the lives you want them to live. And it would be their best life, their happiest life, their most joyful life. And give me simple ways to explain complicated things that are confusing your people. And I remember when I was writing that book, thinking the noticer was such a big deal in the publishing world. And then, you know, now I'm coming out with this sequel. And I don't know what to have Jones tackle. And so I remember sitting down and thinking, what are 3 or 4 things that everybody's dealing with? And I realized it was a family thing. You know, family thing would hurt. Death, the death of a loved one would hurt. Needs to be clarity on that. And there needs to be clarity on Alzheimer's. And so I thought, God, you know, if you can help me put some of that into words, were any one of those things important to you?
I think death was, in particular, you know, we all struggle with losing our loved ones. And it just gave me such a different perspective. You know, I had worked in the medical field as a young man, and so I was a little familiar with Alzheimer's. And so I we're continually learning new things about Alzheimer's, but I still felt like I knew enough about but the death part was great.
If you take that out of context, you know,
yeah, well,
it's like a quote.
Let's
by
redo
Chris
that,
Coleman.
Matt.
The death part was great. So, Chris, what are people what can people expect when they sign up to go through the notice of returns with you? What can they expect?
I think people will find that they will have a new perspective on every aspect of their lives, whether it's parenting, marriage, financial, if they're business owners, even as an employee. I think there's wisdom in here that could help them in their own jobs.
Right.
And I think there's so much. I hope we can do it all in 8 weeks.
Well, I want to get with you because you and I have talked a lot about this, but Polly sent me some videos the other day of starling murmurations, and I thought, man, this would be good for Chris to use in your series there, your study sessions with the notice of returns. You know, the book kind of opens that way with these starlings, and
Right.
But I'll send you what she sent me.
Okay.
But thank you so much for being here. And is Aaron
Thank
good?
you.
Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, all the show notes will contain the dates and how to sign up and all like that. And so thank you, Chris. Dano, are you freezing?
Yes.
I mean, Dan is one of my favorite people on the planet. But I got to say, I don't know about your moving from the beach to Duluth, Minnesota.
Well, I'm looking out. I'm looking out the window and I'm questioning it. We're getting, 2, 3, 4 inches of snow right now. So it's blowing blizzardy. And so I question it consistently for the last 6 months of winter.
Oh my gosh. I think if I were you, I'd look for a plumbing job
Yeah,
down south
anything,
in the
anything.
winter. Hey, so Dan, you chose the traveler's gift. And
Yeah.
and you seemed kind of surprised that it was available to
Yep.
be taught, that it's some of the other guys hadn't chosen that one. And why is that one your favorite?
Yeah. So there's a lot I could say about the travel. Kevin took all the time as the first person you talked to, but so I'll try to keep it short. But I read The Traveler's Gift before you and I ever met, years before you and I ever met. And I'm an avid reader. I'm an addictive reader. Most interesting things that stuck out to me about The Traveler's Gift, really, there was two things. One was that it's timeless. And what I mean by that is we're having conversations about COVID and life and what's going on in society, and everything in that book is needed right now. But if that book was picked up and moved to 20 years ago, everything in that book is needed right then. If you were to pick that book up and move it to the time of the Depression, it was needed then. And if you take that book and you move it into the future, another 50 years, everyone will say, this is needed right now. And so that's one of the reasons I love this book. Another reason I love this book is, I don't know about everyone watching and listening to this, but when I read, I try to grab maybe one or two things as a takeaway from every book I read. So I'm not going to remember everything in the book, but if I can grab one thing from this book, I feel like I've gained something from that book, and then it goes on the shelf, or maybe it goes to another person's hand. The most frustrating thing about The Traveler's Gift is that there isn't one thing. It is thing after thing after thing after thing. I mean, the buck stops here would be something I would pull out of another book, but that's just one chapter. And I have a decided heart. Okay, that's one thing that a whole book would have to get to, but that's just one more chapter. And so David Ponder's voyage and his experiences, it's one thing after another after another. It's why I've read this book multiple times, because every time I read it, it's something new, it's something challenging, and it's why I recommend the book so much. And so I know that was a big answer to a shorter question, but there isn't really just one reason why I love the book. I was super surprised that no one had already taken it. I'm super pumped to be doing it. We're going to have a blast exploring it, because every single person that goes through this book, as we go through it together, is going to have an experience, a life event, something going on right now, or just happened, or will happen, that will pertain to every single week that we have a conversation. So I'm looking forward to the engagement with everybody.
Yeah, and everybody in each course, when the course is over, they will get a certificate of course completion by their coach and by me. And so these can be used for continuing education in your industry. And so maybe a good way to get your company to pay for it too.
Yeah.
Dan, you are one of the most fascinating communicators that I've ever been around. You're obviously younger than I am. I
Quite
think
a bit.
I think that both of us have a similar style, because we're both frenetic and energetic when we're on stage, and you managed to take that into a one-on-one conversation. I was watching you with Emily the other day on the Generations Conversations on Wisdom Harbor, and I was just amazed at how much passion you can bring in there, and the clarity. So I've got a quick question for you about your book, The Traveler's Gift. Which one was your favorite character, and which one was your favorite decision? Because maybe they're not the same, but there's And I remember thinking when I was writing this, everybody's going to love Chamberlain. That was my favorite in the
Yeah.
book, and I'm sure everybody. And through the years, which this is the 20th year anniversary of The Traveler's Gift being published, and I remember thinking, this is bizarre because they're spread equally over 7 things. I'm just curious, who was your favorite person, and what was your favorite decision? Don't necessarily have to be the same.
Yeah, so I was just going to say they probably aren't the same. I would say my favorite, the decision that has impacted my life the most is without question, I will persist without exception. And it's the entirety of that statement that has made the biggest impact on my life. I will persist without exception. I think the combination of that has massively transformed the way that I look at business, at life, my family, as a spouse, as a parent, all of those things wrapped up. Persistence is
Right.
key, but I think it's not as key as without exception. And so you can't have one without the other. I think it's very easy to quit if you've persisted for a minute. Or well, I persisted. So that probably impacted me the most as a decision. But, and this surprised me when I've read it over and over and over again, because I've actually asked myself that same question. Which one has impacted me the most? And then which person did? And surprisingly for me, it was Anne Frank. And I did not think that was going to be my answer. Chamberlain and Truman. I mean, there's some, Columbus, like, oh man, these Chargers. And here's Anne and this idea of greeting each day a certain way, which we'll get into and have that conversation. But that probably just her attitude and David's interaction with her and what she could have been thinking and doing and saying and how she could have reacted to what was going on in the world around her probably made the biggest impact on my life personally. And so I think everyone's going to have a favorite decision, and all of us reading this together are going to have a favorite person. And I'm looking forward to hearing the answers from the people that we talk to that we're going to be in this class with having their answers, because I think someone else is going to have that same person that Anne will be their favorite, but it may be for a very different reason. So I think this conversation in this class is going to be layered. I think it's going to be super emotional for a lot of us. It's going to be very engaging. It's going to pull out of us some stuff that I think we did not think was in there before we started having the conversation.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I know how busy you are, and I really appreciate
I'm pumped to do it. Yeah.
you being a part of this. Jamie Futrell, how are things in Kentucky, buddy?
It's a little cool today, but maybe not as cool as where Dan is in Duluth. But
At
it's
least you
a
ain't got
little cool.
snow on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have any snow, but it's a little cooler than I would prefer.
Well, Jamie, I credit you with pushing me off the fence on this. This just kind of took a back seat for a number of years. I knew it was a good idea, but I knew how much work it would take to get it going. And here we are. And
Yeah.
but I got to tell you, I want to tell you this right in front of everybody. Now you have, ever since we met, the first time we met, I have always been an admirer of yours. I've always thought, man, this guy, he can get anything done. I mean, this is a guy who's going to figure it out no matter what. And I was surprised that you wanted to do the 7 decisions. I mean, because you're the one that brought the concept up. You're the one that, and so I was going to let you have whatever choice you want. But I was pretty sure it would either be the Traveler's Gift or the Noticer. But no, you chose the 7 decisions. Why is that?
Well, because to me, one of the big things, Andy, is that Dan touched on it just a little bit. We're all aware of knowledge, and Dan talked about how you could read a book and that you just hope to get something out of it, that one thing that you get out of it. But the big thing for me is, can you take that knowledge and actually apply it? I mean, to gather the knowledge is one thing, but can you apply it? And I recall in an interview that Gary Smalley did once that he's talking about a struggle. Here's the relationship guru himself, and he's talking about this struggle that he was having, and his son reiterates some advice Gary had written in a previous book.
Wow.
And Gary said, "That's great. Where did you get that?" And he said, "Dad, it was in your book." And so here's the guy that wrote the advice, and he forgot the knowledge because it's so easy for all of us to do. And so just like Dan was saying, there's 7 decisions. You want to walk away with one thing from a book. Well, this has got 7. And so what 7 decisions does is we go deeper into each one of those decisions to help you to recall the decision better, but more importantly, to help you apply the decision.
Wow.
Because if you get the knowledge, that's great. Knowledge is great, but really we always hear that saying of knowledge is power. No, it's not. Because if you don't apply the knowledge, it's useless.
Yeah. If you can't figure out how to harness it.
I mean, if you can't apply it, it's really nothing. And so it's all about application. And that's what we do.
And so are you going to be, I'm just assuming here that you're going to be thinking very deeply, asking questions to get to tunnel deeper, to go, what is it going to be like being in your group?
Well, I love the fact that Kevin Williams said we're all a little insane, because that is totally true. That is totally true. And so we're definitely going to have a good time. But one of the things I love the fact that it's broken into 8 weeks, Andy, because what's going to happen is I noticed when I went through Dale Carnegie years ago was the fact that we went through every week gave me a chance to apply what I learned that week. And that's exactly what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to really dissect the concept and talk about it and talk about its application. And then we're going to have a period of actually applying what we just talked about and really putting it into practice. And so I think that's going to be critical for you to really be able to put all of the 7 decisions. And can you imagine? I mean, for me, the buck stops here is the one that I have seen the most impact from, but the decided heart decision is the one that I struggle the most in applying. So, as I wanted to do the 7 decisions because my thought was, man, I've read so many books, quality, success, self-help type books. I've read so many, but if I could just get these 7 decisions down, if I could just get these applied, then man, something awesome will happen. And what I know is I happen to know the secret. Hey, the one that learns the most is always the teacher. So I love the fact that I get to apply and go through these 7 decisions every single week for 8 weeks and again and again.
Yeah. He who serves the most grows the fastest.
Amen.
So I really appreciate you, Kev, personally and professionally. And your name is not Kev, you are Jamie. But that's, I got all the way through this looking at all 11 of you people. And that's the first time that I screwed up somebody's name.
It's all good. It's all good.
Kevin, Jamie, KJ. So, anyway, you guys, thank you for joining us, and we'll have all the details on the show notes. This is something you want to do. These people are your best opportunity to be given insight into the process, into the thinking, and to be able to learn something, to take it back to your community and to teach that at your organization or your church or a youth group or whatever. Because these are 6 people who I trust with my life. And these are great folks, and they're going to be great friends of yours very shortly. But thank you guys for being with us.
Thank you.
Andy.
I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing that tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Cat food that wasn't good enough provided for the cast and crew by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional funding provided by NameItWhateverYouWant.com. Friends, have you ever been in a discussion with a favorite author and realized you could not remember the title of his most famous book? What did you do? Did you forge ahead, seeking to bamboozle the author into not hearing the words coming out of your mouth? Or did you freeze and attempt to sliver away without being noticed? Either way, you'll find NameItWhateverYouWant.com will allow you to retain a high level of confidence, a virtually indefensible defense against embarrassment, despite having embarrassed yourself in a mightily massive way. The next time you find yourself in this position, do what the pros do and reach for NameItWhateverYouWant.com. Not only will it be a game changer for you, it'll provide hours of laughing for the author's family as they sift and catalog virtual books with titles that don't exist. No, friends, they aren't laughing with you. They're laughing at you. But not to worry, you now have more books than you did originally. Now you can study brand new takes on the old classics. Upon how many times have you read The Traveler's Gift and The Noticer? Isn't it time to move on and dig into The Traveler's Guide, The Traveler's View, and The Traveler's Treasure? Toss The Noticer aside and spend some time with the man who watches things. And don't forget, the author has more books that deserve your attention. See the complete list on NameItWhateverYouWant.com, and you'll connect instantly to the Heart Matter, the Heart Monitor, and the Heart Times. Standalone books like The Lost Coin, The Kid Who Changes the Balloon, and How Do You Kill 6,000 People. All these titles are ready and waiting for you, or throw away the title and name it again. In fact, name it whatever you want.com.